Okay, folks, I think I'm going to go ahead and turn it over for discussion for our council now. So, with that, Walter, would you?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The point has been made a couple of times. Gary made it, and then Ken possibly. We got a lot of emails on this from people, and they didn't understand that there, is not an observed Columbus Day in Moscow. So we're really not talking about changing something because it doesn't really exist in the first place. I have a little problem sometimes with dealing with things that I don't consider to really be in the purview of city councils. We're really about water, sewer, streets, potholes, airports, police departments, fire departments, and those kinds of things. And when we slip over into some of the social issues, I'll admit it makes me a little uncomfortable. We've done it before. We've done it quite successfully, and we've done things that the rest of the state hasn't done. But with that, Mr. Mayor, I'd entertain hearing from other council people, and then probably have a couple of questions later.
Okay. Jim.
Mr. Mayor, I fully expect this to pass, and I don't have a problem with designating the federal holiday day as some other name besides Columbus Day, but I kind of have a problem with the name Indigenous People Day because I think it's not very inclusive. And it's not because I'm against Indigenous people or Native Americans. It's because I'm for them, and I'm for LGBT people, and I'm for Syrian refugees and Latino Americans and African Americans and any other people that came here in search of freedom and equality. So I would prefer that the name be something else, but this is possibly a step in that direction. So that's my opinion on it.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Art?
Yeah, I'm strongly in support of changing this name and altering the focus and the emphasis from a bit of history headed up initially by Christopher Columbus himself, genocide, slavery, and a lot of other unpleasantries. Change it from the negative that is associated with that individual, and also the fact that he never really landed on North America. He's hung around the Dominican Republic only, I believe. But I'd like to see it changed and put the focus back on to the indigenous peoples who were here, and make this a commemoration on the second Monday in October for Moscow to reflect and think about the indigenous peoples who were here and what happened to them and how they are still with us and socially relevant to this day.
John.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Looking at this, and my mind really has been changed since we spent the amount of time, and I've spent time just talking to people up and down Main Street. And Jim, I agree with you, this might just be the first step. And if it is, that's fine. The number of people that took the time out of their evening to come in to the city council chambers where usually we just do dull stuff. Am I wrong? And so what we're doing here is we're taking the first step. I don't like the name Indigenous at all, but I'm going to vote for this because we're starting down a path that could be really good. And we're early enough in the process that if it is not good, we can change it. So I'm going to go in favor of passing, this isn't legislation, but passing this. And I want to thank all of you folks that came out and all of you folks on the other side that came out. And in this meeting, being against it puts you right behind the 8 ball. So, like I said, I thank you.
Catherine?
Hi, thank you all for coming very much, and we've had some good conversations at this. I was really surprised at how much dialogue we've had about it. And I think what was first off kind of weird is it felt like we were being attacked when, I mean, as a council, when we didn't bring it up. So I'm glad it came from the commission, but I feel like it is a dialogue that we've been open to. And I think the important word is ancestors, and I think that's what's resonating with both sides is ancestors. And it looks to be that the United Nations, again, is the people that moved this forward first, and that's where I go back to, 1977 with the real move. And then it looks like in 1992, about, 25 years ago, when we really began to think about Indigenous people. And Jim and I and the mayor have had big conversations about this because reconciliation is really what we all want. We want to move forward and heal. But it seems like our first step is to acknowledge, especially with the state of Idaho and with our federal government, that Indigenous people need to be seen, and maybe they're not being seen. So as much as I would like for it to be a reconciliation day, it seems as though we're not there yet. So I think we'll have to do this as a first step. But that part of the resolution, part 3, I would really encourage the Human Rights Commission to be strong and continue to push this forward. And if you really want to be first, and if you really want to do the right thing, continue the energy toward the national government.
Jana.
Every one of you right now, with the passion and the willingness to sit in those uncomfortable chairs for the amount of time you've been in them, is why Moscow is a leader and why we are a great, quirky, fun, passionate group of people. I don't know if it's Indigenous, if it's Discovery Day, whatever it is. I'm in favor of changing it. Let's move forward. You got a work to do, Mr. Founts. You need to get the right wording and the right title for us, sir. Bring it forward as a suggestion, please.
Walter.
Gina, there's a little bit of a problem with that. The one before says Indigenous Peoples Day. So,
I would support changing this as a first step, definitely.
okay, but I'm just a little puzzled about your.
What?
Pardon me?
He wants to know a name. What do you want to name?
I mean,
That's what he wants.
I understand you asking the Human Rights Commission working on a different name. We've had a couple of council people that have
Right.
indicated a problem with the term that's being used. You may or may not. I'm not sure how we can pass this and then have them work on, do we go back and pass another one that changes the name again? That's all I'm asking.
What my point is that I think there are a number of us up here that agree that this is a good first step towards redress or reconciliation. I think Indigenous Peoples Day is fine. Period. And I would like to make a motion, my friend, and I want to get the right wording.
You're going to do the motion?
Yes,
Hold on.
I'm going to do the motion. Thank you very much, Catherine. I would make a motion that we approve the attached resolution declaring Indigenous Peoples Day in the city of Moscow, stating the effect of such declaration and petitioning the federal and state governments to recognize Indigenous Peoples Day.
I'd second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Gina and a second by Art to approve the attached resolution declaring Indigenous Peoples Day in the city of Moscow, stating that the effect of such declaration and petitioning the federal and state governments to recognize Indigenous People Day. Further discussion before I call a roll. Start with you, Walter.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
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 Okay, it passes 5-1, so we do have an Indigenous Peoples Day, and as usual, the city of Moscow is leading, just like the University of Idaho flagship university of the state. We are examples there, folks. There you go. Thank you.